Let's say the quiet thing out loud. A lot of women enter their 40s and start suddenly wondering if they're becoming less relevant. Not because they have less ability or they have less experience, not because they have stopped being ambitious, but because somewhere silently the world started treating them as if their best career years are behind them. And what's worse, many women start believing it. They look around and think, am I too late? Have I missed the window? Should I have reached there by now? Is it too risky to change direction at this stage? Should I just be grateful for what I have? And this is where I want to pause, because your 40s are not a career decline. They are not the beginning of professional invisibility. They are not the stage where you should shrink your ambition so that other people feel comfortable. Your 40s are a career rewrite, and sometimes that rewrite is the most honest career move you will ever make. Welcome back, and if this conversation speaks to you, subscribe, follow, and share it with a woman who needs to hear this today. Here is the lie, that by your 40s, your career should already be settled. You should know who you are. You should have achieved enough. You should stop experimenting. You should become more practical. You should not take big risks. You should not want too much. You should not start again. You should not change paths. You should not question the life you have worked so hard to build. It sounds sensible, but often it's not. It is fear dressed up as maturity. Because the truth is, by the time many women reach their 40s, they're not less capable, they're clearer, they're sharper, and they have survived enough rooms, roles, managers, politics, disappointments, family transitions, health challenges, emotional labor, financial pressure, and identity shifts to finally know what they will no longer tolerate. That is not decline, that is data. Your 40s give you data your 20s and 30s could never give you. You know what drains you. You know what performs well on paper but empties you quietly. You know what kind of boss destroys your energy. You know what kind of work makes you feel alive. You know the difference between being busy and being valued. You know the difference between being needed and being respected. You know the difference between success that looks good and success that feels true. That is not crisis. That is intelligence. A lot of women are not confused in their 40s. They are confronting the fact that the career they built was built for an earlier version of themselves, an earlier version who wanted validation, an earlier version who wanted security, an earlier version who wanted to prove she could do it, an earlier version who said yes because she did not want to seem difficult, an earlier version who kept going because stopping felt unsafe, an earlier version who did not yet know what the cost would be. And then one day you wake up inside a career that looks impressive but feels misaligned. You're good at it, people respect you for it, you may even be well paid for it, but something in you knows this cannot be the full story. And that is uncomfortable because it is much easier to say I'm burnt out. It is much harder to say I may have outgrown the ambition that built this life. That is the real tension. Not that you failed, but that you succeeded at something that no longer fully fits. That is why this stage feels confusing. You're not starting from zero, you're starting from truth, and truth can be inconvenient. In your 20s, the question is often, how do I get started? In your 30s, it becomes, how do I grow, prove, earn, move, establish myself? But in your 40s, the question changes. It becomes, what do I actually want to build from here? What am I no longer available for? What part of my career is mine? And what part was inherited from expectations? What does ambition look like when it is not driven by proving? That last one actually matters because many women confuse ambition with exhaustion. They think if they do not want the same pace, same ladder, same title, same fight, then maybe they have become less ambitious. No. Maybe your ambition has become more intelligent. Maybe it is no longer willing to destroy your nervous system for recognition. Maybe it is no longer wanting a bigger title without bigger meaning. Maybe it no longer wants visibility if the cost is constant performance. Maybe it no longer wants success that requires self-abandonment. That is not a loss of ambition. That is ambition growing up. And that is why your 40s can be powerful because you can finally stop chasing everything and start choosing. Now, when I say career rewrite, I do not mean everyone has to quit their job, start a business, move countries, become a founder, or dramatically change industries. Sometimes the rewrite is quieter. Sometimes it is choosing not to compete for a role you do not actually want. Sometimes it is renegotiating your scope. Sometimes it is moving from execution to advisory. Sometimes it is saying no to being the emotional shock absorber of the team. Sometimes it is changing the kind of rooms you want access to. Sometimes it is building a portfolio of work instead of one identity. Sometimes it is preparing for a transition before the transition is visible to others. Sometimes it is simply admitting, I'm not stuck, I'm done with this version. That is still a rewrite, and it requires courage because people may not understand it. They may say, but you're doing so well. They may say, why disturb things now? They may say, at this stage, security matters. They may say, is this really the time? And the answer may be yes, because the real risk is not change. The real risk is staying in a career that slowly makes you disappear from yourself. Here is what younger ambition often does not have: the pattern recognition. By your 40s, you can see the pattern. You can see the role that looks exciting but is actually a political trap. You can see the manager who praises you but will never sponsor you. You can see the organization that uses your competence but does not invest in your growth. You can see the opportunity that looks prestigious but will cost you your peace. You can see the room where you are invited to execute but not influence. This is power. But many women do not use this power because they are too busy questioning whether they are still young enough to begin again. Let me say this clearly. You are not too old to rewrite your career. You are too experienced to keep pretending you do not know what is wrong. That is the difference. Your 40s are not about chasing the same version of success with older energy. They are about deciding what success now has to mean. So, what do you do if this is where you are? Start with 3 questions. First, what part of my career am I still carrying because it once made sense? Second, what am I tolerating because I'm afraid of being seen as an ungrateful person? Third, if I stopped trying to prove and started trying to align, what would change? Do not rush the answer. Sit with them. Because the rewrite does not begin with a resignation letter. It begins with honesty. And honesty may tell you to stay, but stay differently. It may tell you to leave, but leave strategically. It may tell you to pause, but not disappear. It may tell you to build something on the side. It may tell you to ask more. It may tell you to stop asking for permission. But it will not let you keep pretending that nothing has changed. Because something has changed. You have changed. And your career now has to meet the woman you have become. So no, your 40s are not a career decline. They are not the end of ambition. They are not a slow exit from relevance. They are the stage where your ambition can become more truthful, more strategic, more self-respecting, and more powerful. This is not decline. This is rewrite. And the question is not, am I too late? The question is, what am I finally ready to stop performing? So, in the end, if this episode spoke to you, subscribe to Transform with Gavira. Follow us for more honest conversations on women, work ambition, and transitions. And share this with a woman who needs to hear that she is not too late. She may just be ready for the rewrite.